Well, family members are devastated after a new mother was shot and killed by her husband, who then took his own life. It all happened in Brookwood Hospital less than 24 hours ago. A Jefferson County coroner's report says Precious Johnson was shot multiple times. Authorities say she was a patient in the hospital. Family members say the 24-year-old had just had a baby with her husband, 19-year-old Kenneth Terry Jr.
She made it. After 9 months, after everything, she made it to the other side. March 1st, 2026, a Sunday, Homewood, Alabama. Baptist Health Brookwood Hospital sits on a hill just south of Birmingham, the kind of place that feels removed from the noise of the city, from the weight of everything that happens down below. Clean streets, quiet, the sort of suburb where nothing feels urgent. And inside that hospital, on the 5th floor, there is a wing that operates at a different frequency than the rest of the building, the maternity ward. You've been there, or someone you love has. You know what it feels like the moment those elevator doors open. Something shifts. The air is warmer. Nurses speak in lower tones. The lighting doesn't feel clinical. It feels almost careful, like even the building knows what's happening inside these rooms. This is where people begin. A 24-year-old woman named PreciousEliciaJ'anaeJohnson checked into that floor not as a patient in crisis, but as a mother about to meet her child for the very first time. Her first. Sometime that afternoon, she gave birth, a healthy baby, her healthy baby. And for a few hours on that Sunday evening, Precious Johnson was exactly where every new mother deserves to be. Alive, exhausted, and holding the thing she'd been waiting 9 months to hold. She had no idea what was already walking toward her room. None. And by 9:29 that night, Precious Johnson was gone. Before we go any further, if you're watching this for the first time, this channel exists for one reason: to tell these stories the way they deserve to be told, with honesty, with dignity, with facts. If that means something to you, kindly subscribe to the channel at Dark Crime Ledger, because Precious Johnson's story deserves to be heard, and so does every story that comes after hers. Now, I want to ask you something before we go any deeper into this. How well do you really know the person sleeping next to you? Not who they were when you met them, not who they are on their best days. Who are they at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night when everything they thought their life was going to look like isn't? And this is the question that's going to stay with you long after this video ends. What does it feel like to give birth, to go through every single hour of labor, to push a human life into the world with your own body, and then never get to raise them? Sit with that, because that is what happened here. Her name was Precious. PreciousEliciaJ'anaeJohnson, 24 years old, born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. And every single person who knew her talks about her the same way. Her warmth, the way she could walk into a room and something about it just changed. Her spirit, the kind of person who made you feel like you mattered just by being around her. She was somebody's daughter, somebody's friend. And on March 1st, 2026, she became somebody's mother. But here's the part of Precious's life that the headlines don't linger on long enough. In the weeks leading up to that birth, her marriage was in trouble. Not quietly. The people around her knew it. Family knew it. The fractures were visible to anyone paying attention. And then came the detail. The one that every domestic violence advocate I've ever spoken to reads the same way. Precious Johnson did not want her husband's family at the hospital. Not for a small reason, not over some passing argument the night before. She made a decision, a deliberate one, that when she gave birth to her first child, the people connected to Kenneth Terry would not be in that building. I've been covering cases like this for 23 years, and I want to tell you what that decision actually means, because it's easy to read it wrong. A woman who keeps her husband's family out of her delivery room is not being dramatic. She is not overreacting. She is building the only wall she has access to. She is trying to own one space, one room, one day that belonged entirely to her. When a woman in a struggling marriage draws that kind of boundary, quietly, firmly, without explanation to the outside world, she is telling you something, not with words, with the decision itself. Precious had done everything right. She carried that baby full term. She showed up. She gave birth. She was lying in a recovery room on the 5th floor, and she had earned that room. Now, Kenneth William Terry Jr., 19 years old, from Midfield, Alabama, a small municipality of roughly 5,000 people wedged between Birmingham and Bessemer. If you're not from that area, Midfield is the kind of place that doesn't make the news for good things. Economically, it has struggled for decades. But the people who grow up there, they grow up with a kind of toughness, a resilience, a knowledge of how to survive inside a system that has never particularly cared whether they did. Kenneth was 19. I want you to really hold that number for a second, because there's a legal answer to the question of whether 19 is an adult, and then there's a biological one, and they are not the same answer. Legally, adult, fully. Neurologically, the part of the brain responsible for impulse control, for regulating emotion, for understanding long-term consequences, that part is not finished developing until around 25. That is not an excuse, it is a fact. And in this case, it is a fact that matters. He had recently completed Army National Guard training. At 19 years old, Kenneth Terry had been formally, professionally taught how to handle a firearm. The military had taken him, young, still forming, still figuring out who he was, and taught him to use a weapon with precision. And on the evening of March 1st, 2026, he was inside Brookwood Hospital as a visitor, a family member in the hospital's own language. He had just become a father hours earlier. His wife was in a recovery room down the hall. His baby was in the nursery. And by every account, he was on the outside of something he couldn't find his way back into. I'm not going to tell you Kenneth Terry was a monster. That would be the easy version of this story. And the easy version helps nobody. What I will tell you is this. None of what I just described justifies what happened in that room. Nothing does. Nothing ever could. But if we look away from who Kenneth was, if we reduce him to just what he did and refuse to examine the rest, then we learn absolutely nothing. And the next woman named Precious pays for our refusal to look. They were married. They were struggling. They were both on the 5th floor of Brookwood Hospital on March 1st, 2026. And only one of them should have died that night. None of them should have.
I need you to stay with me for this part, because this is where the story stops being background. This is where it becomes real. Earlier that afternoon, somewhere between the lunch hours and the early evening, Precious Johnson gave birth. The baby came. Healthy, whole, everything you pray for in those final weeks, it was there. The nurses would have done what they always do in that moment, cleaned the baby, checked vitals, and at some point placed that child into Precious's arms for the first time. Think about that moment. After 9 months, after every doctor's appointment, every sleepless night, every morning she woke up and pressed her hand against her stomach, it was finally real, breathing, warm, hers. At some point that evening, the baby was moved to the nursery. Standard procedure, let the mother rest, the baby is safe, the baby is just down the hall. And Precious was in her recovery room on the 5th floor. Kenneth Terry Jr. was also in that hospital, listed as a visitor, a family member. Those are the words the facility used, and they're worth noticing because they tell you exactly how ordinary his presence appeared to everyone around him. He wasn't flagged, he wasn't watched, he was just a young father in a hospital on the night his child was born. That's all anyone saw. 9:21 p.m. Inside that fifth-floor recovery room, PreciousEliciaJ'anaeJohnson is shot multiple times. The Jefferson County Coroner's Office will later record the official time of her injuries as approximately 9:21 p.m. That is the clinical language. That is how it gets written into a report. Multiple gunshot wounds. Time of injury, 9:21 p.m. Words on a page. But I want you to understand what that room looked like. A recovery room in a maternity ward is not a dramatic space. It's small, it's quiet, there's a bed with a raised rail, a call button on the wall, a television probably muted or off, get well balloons maybe, a cup of ice chips on the bedside table. That is where it happened. Not in a parking lot, not in a back alley somewhere, in the room where she was supposed to be safest. 9:24 p.m. 1 minute later. 60 seconds after the first shot, Kenneth William Terry Jr. dies in that same room from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. 1 minute. The whole thing, the entire act of it, 60 seconds. 9:25 p.m. Homewood police receive the call. Possible shots fired. Officers respond to 2010 Brookwood Medical Center Drive. They move fast. They arrive to find a fifth-floor recovery room that no longer looks like a recovery room. 2 people down, 1 gun. The hospital goes into lockdown immediately. Nurses are pulling patients back from hallways. Doors are closing. Staff are moving quickly, quietly, the way people move when they've been trained for emergencies, but never truly expected to need that training here, on this floor, in this wing. A few floors down, or maybe just down the hall, a newborn is in the nursery. The baby does not know. That baby is the only person in that entire building who does not know what just happened. Homewood Mayor Jennifer Andrus releases a statement. The Jefferson County Coroner's Office is contacted. Investigators begin processing the room. The machinery of a death investigation starts turning. Forms, photographs, measurements, timestamps. And somewhere in all of that, 9:29 p.m., PreciousEliciaJ'anaeJohnson is pronounced dead. 8 minutes. From the first shot to the moment she was officially gone, 8 minutes. I've thought about that number more than I want to admit since I started working on this story. 8 minutes is nothing. 8 minutes is the time it takes to make a cup of coffee, to scroll through your phone without really seeing anything, to sit in your car after a long day before you go inside. In 8 minutes, Precious Johnson's life ended. And in those same 8 minutes, a child who had only been alive for a few hours became an orphan. Both parents gone. One murdered, one by his own hand. And down the hall, that baby kept breathing, not knowing. Not yet. Now I need to ask you something, and I want you to really think about the answer. How did he get the gun in? That's it. That's the question. It sounds simple. It isn't. Because we are not talking about a parking garage. We are not talking about a gas station or a street corner somewhere. We are talking about the Women's Medical Center of a major hospital, a facility where women go to give birth, where the patients are by definition at their most physically open, most exhausted, most vulnerable state a human body ever reaches. How did a 19-year-old man walk a loaded firearm through the front entrance, into an elevator, down a hallway, and into a recovery room on the 5th floor, without anyone stopping him? Was there a metal detector at the entrance? Was there a security desk where bags were checked? Were there armed guards posted near the maternity ward? These are not unreasonable questions. These are the first questions any investigator, any journalist, any parent would ask. Baptist Health Brookwood Hospital's communications manager, David McKinney, released a statement in the days following the shooting.
It's sad, but this was an isolated incident. And I will say in my 30 years of working at the Hospital Association and representing our hospitals in the state, this is the first time something has occurred like this.
It was cooperative in tone, measured, institutional, the kind of statement that acknowledges gravity without accepting fault. It did not answer the question. So we went further. And what we found is worse than an incomplete answer. The president of the Alabama Hospital Association confirmed it on record, directly, no ambiguity. There are no security mandates for hospitals in the state of Alabama. None. Not a single law requiring metal detectors, no legal obligation to post security at maternity ward entrances, no statewide requirement that hospitals screen visitors for weapons before allowing access to patients recovering from childbirth. Zero.
I want you to let that land. Really let it land. A man walked into a maternity ward, a wing full of women who had just delivered babies, whose bodies were still recovering, who were lying in beds with call buttons and IV lines, with a loaded gun. And not one law in the entire state of Alabama required a single person to check. Not one. And here is the part that keeps me up at night about this case. This wasn't the first time. Not even close. December 2012, St. Vincent's Hospital, Birmingham, Alabama. A gunman opens fire inside the facility. A police officer is shot. 2 hospital staff members are wounded. Inside a hospital in Birmingham. March 2018, UAB Highlands Hospital, same city, a 63-year-old nursing supervisor, a woman who had spent her career caring for people, is shot and killed by a coworker. Another employee is wounded. The gunman dies by a self-inflicted wound inside a hospital in Birmingham. March 2026, Baptist Health Brookwood Hospital, the maternity ward, PreciousEliciaJ'anaeJohnson, a recovery room on the 5th floor. 3 incidents, same city, different hospitals, different years, same catastrophic, preventable access. After 2012, no mandate. After 2018, no mandate. After 2026, we are still waiting. The ledger of hospital shootings in Birmingham keeps getting longer. The list of legal requirements protecting the people inside those buildings does not. That pattern is not an accident. It is a choice. And I want to ask you something directly. At what point does the absence of a law become a decision? Think about that carefully, because there is a version of inaction that looks neutral, looks like nothing is happening, like nobody made a call either way. But when a pattern exists, when the evidence is documented, when the bodies have been counted more than once, choosing not to act is still a choice. At what point does inaction become permission? Because on the night of March 1st, 2026, something or someone walked through a door that should have had a checkpoint, and PreciousJ'anaeJohnson paid for the gap with her life. In a room designed to protect her, on the floor where people are supposed to begin. On the night of March 1st, 2026, Rebecca McWilliams got the news. Rebecca McWilliams is the executive director of One Place Metro Alabama Family Justice Center, and Birmingham organization that has spent years sitting across the table from women in crisis, helping them find a way out of situations that most people never see coming until it's already too late. She heard about the shooting at Brookwood Hospital before she knew the names, before she knew the ages, before she knew anything about PreciousJ'anaeJohnson or Kenneth Terry or a baby in a nursery down the hall. Her first thought was domestic violence. Not a possibility, not a guess, a recognition. She said she hated that she was right. Read that again slowly. She hated being right, because being right in her line of work means another woman is dead. Being right means the pattern held. Being right means everything she has spent her career trying to prevent happened anyway, in a hospital room on a Sunday night, 8 minutes after 9 p.m. And she was right. She said something else that I haven't been able to shake since I first read it. This is not a story about 2 people behind closed doors. It never was. And she's correct, because we have a habit, as a culture, as communities, as people who would rather not get involved, of drawing a circle around domestic violence and calling it private, calling it personal, calling it something that happens between two people and belongs to them alone. But Precious Johnson did not die behind closed doors. She died in a hospital, on a floor full of nurses and new mothers and newborn babies. She died in a place that had nothing to do with privacy, nothing to do with the inside of a home or the silence of a relationship no one else could see. This happened in public, in front of all of us. There is a term that domestic violence researchers and advocates use for what happened to Precious Johnson: separation assault. It doesn't get talked about enough outside of advocacy circles, and it should, because it explains something that most people find deeply confusing about these cases. Why does it get worse when she tries to leave? Why is the most dangerous moment not when she stays, but when she starts in any way, even quietly, to pull back? The research is consistent on this. The data is clear. When a woman in an abusive or controlling relationship begins to assert independence, when she draws a boundary, reclaims a space, makes a decision that excludes her partner, the risk of violence doesn't go down, it goes up, dramatically. Precious had drawn a boundary, a real one. She told his family they were not welcome in that hospital. She made a decision about her own delivery room, the most intimate space she would ever occupy, and she made it without asking for permission. For most people, that reads as completely reasonable. For the specific and catastrophic few, it reads as a threat. I want to be honest with you something, and I want you to hear this carefully because it is easy to misread. I don't believe Kenneth Terry woke up that morning with a plan. I don't think he drove to that hospital with a clear intention formed the night before. I don't think this was calculated in the way we sometimes imagine these things to be. I think he walked into that recovery room carrying something enormous that he had absolutely no language for. Rage, the wordless kind. Shame, the kind that has nowhere to go. The feeling of being locked out, not just from a room, but from his own marriage, his own child, his own sense of who he was supposed to be in that moment. He was 19. He had just become a father in a hospital where his wife had made clear he was barely welcome. Whatever story he had told himself about his life, about who he was, about what his family was going to look like, it was falling apart in real time on a Sunday night, 8 minutes after 9 p.m. None of that is an excuse. I need you to hear me say that clearly. None of it. But here is what it is. It is a diagnosis. Untreated shame, unprocessed rage, a 19-year-old with military weapons training and no emotional tools whatsoever, no therapy, no intervention, no one who sat him down and said, "What is actually happening inside you right now?" We do not treat this. As a country, as a culture, we do not treat this. We hand young men firearms, and we never once ask them what they plan to do with everything they cannot say out loud. And Precious Johnson is dead because of the gap between those two things. That gap has a name. We just keep refusing to say it. There is a baby. That is the part of this story that stops everything else. There is a baby who was born on March 1st, 2026, healthy, whole, everything a new parent prays for, and that baby is still here. We don't know the name. The news reports haven't released it, and honestly, good. That child deserves at least one thing in this story that belongs only to them, one thing that hasn't been processed and reported and turned into a detail in a timeline. But the anonymity of that name is also somehow the loudest thing in this entire case, because that child exists. Right now, somewhere in Birmingham or Midfield or wherever family has gathered to hold the pieces of this together, that baby is breathing, sleeping, eating, completely unaware. and that baby is an orphan. Born and orphaned on the same day, March 1st, 2026. That date is going to follow this child for the rest of their life. Every birthday, every single one, from the first to the last, will carry something else inside it. Something heavy, something that can't be separated from the cake and the candles and whatever joy the people who love them will try to build around that day. Birthdays are supposed to be uncomplicated. This one never will be. I want to ask you something, and there is no good answer to this. I've thought about it for days, and I still don't have one. What do you tell a child when they're old enough to ask? Not the version you tell a 5-year-old, the real version, the one a 12-year-old demands or a 16-year-old finds on their own because the internet doesn't forget, and neither does a county coroner's report. What is the sentence that contains all of this? Your mother gave birth to you on a Sunday afternoon. She held you. She was alive and exhausted, and she had just done the hardest thing a human body can do. And that same night, your father walked into her room with a gun. What do you do with that? Where does a child put that? There is no clean answer. There is no version of this story that becomes easier to carry with age. That child is going to grow up and someday understand fully what happened on the day they were born. And the people who love them are going to have to be there for that moment, whenever it comes, however it comes. I hope they are ready. Kenneth Terry's mother spoke to reporters after the shooting. She said her son had shown no signs that anything like this was coming. She described the marital difficulties as something that seemed manageable, something that couples go through, nothing that pointed toward violence. And I believe her. Not because I think she's protecting him, though grief makes people do complicated things. I believe her because that is exactly how this kind of violence operates. It hides. It does not announce itself. It does not leave obvious evidence in the days before. The people closest to it, the mothers, the siblings, the friends, are almost never the ones who see it forming. They see the arguments, they hear about the tension, but the specific thing that is about to happen, it stays hidden until it doesn't. That is not a failure of his mother's attention. That is the nature of this. Precious Johnson's family has not spoken publicly. Not a statement, not an interview, nothing. And I am not going to fill that silence with speculation. They are burying a 24-year-old woman who should have come home from the hospital with a baby and a lifetime ahead of her. Whatever they are feeling right now is theirs, completely, entirely theirs. But that silence says something. Grief that has no words yet is still grief. Here is something that does not get said loudly enough in this country. Pregnancy is one of the most dangerous periods in an abusive relationship. Not metaphorically, statistically. Research has documented it repeatedly, consistently, across studies, across demographics, across years of collected data. Intimate partner violence escalates during pregnancy and in the postpartum period at rates that should terrify us. Homicide is one of the leading causes of death for pregnant women in the United States. This is known. It has been known for a long time. And still, in hospitals across Alabama, there is no mandatory screening for domestic violence during prenatal care. No legal requirement that a woman be asked privately and directly if she is safe at home. No checkpoint, no protocol demanded by law. The information exists. The will to act on it, that is the part still missing. That baby is healthy. That is the only mercy this story has. And it is a real one. I don't want to diminish it. That child is alive. That child is being cared for. That child has people who love them. but love cannot hand them back what March 1st, 2026 took. Nothing can.
True crime has a way of doing something to the people inside the stories. We've all seen it happen. The case becomes the crime becomes the details become the timeline. And somewhere in all of that, the person who actually lived, who actually had a morning routine and a favorite food and a laugh that people who loved her can still hear if they close their eyes, she disappears. She becomes a function of what happened to her instead of the reason any of it matters. I refuse to do that here. PreciousEliciaJ'anaeJohnson was 24 years old. Say that name out loud if you're alone right now. Precious. It is not a common name. It is not a name someone gives a child without meaning it. Somebody looked at her when she was born and made a declaration. This one, this child, precious. She grew up in Birmingham. She built a life. She fell in love, or something that felt enough like it to say yes to. She got married. She got pregnant. She carried that baby through every single week of a full-term pregnancy, every uncomfortable night, every appointment, every moment of uncertainty that comes with waiting for something you cannot yet hold. And on a Sunday afternoon in early March, she held it. However briefly, she held her child. She was a mother before she was a victim. That sequence matters. That order is the whole point. She had done everything right. I keep coming back to that, not as a platitude, as a fact. She recognized that her marriage was in trouble, and she drew a boundary. She protected her space. She made it to the hospital. She delivered a healthy baby. She was in a recovery room, doing exactly what you're supposed to do after giving birth: resting, healing, beginning. There was no mistake on her part, no miscalculation, no moment where a different decision by Precious Johnson changes how this ends. She was exactly where she was supposed to be, and it still happened. The hardest thing about this case isn't the violence. I've covered enough of these to know that violence in true crime is the punctuation, it is the period at the end. But the sentence, the long, ordinary, devastating sentence that leads up to it, that is where the real story lives. Precious Johnson did not die somewhere we'd been warned about. She didn't die in a dark parking lot after being followed home. She didn't die in an alley or on a street corner or in any of the places we've been conditioned to think of as dangerous. She died in the safest room we know how to build, a room with nurses down the hall, a room with a call button within arm's reach, a room that exists for one single purpose: to welcome life into the world. And we let a loaded gun walk right through the door. Not by accident, by absence, by the specific, documented, on-the-record decision of an entire state to not require anything more. As of March 3rd, 2026, the investigation remains ongoing. No criminal charges, no court proceedings, because the only person who committed a crime is gone. No trial, no sentencing, no public accounting in a courtroom where Precious Johnson's name gets said out loud by a judge. Just an open case file, one empty room on the 5th floor of Brookwood Hospital, and one newborn somewhere in Birmingham who will grow up and one day want to know everything. What we owe Precious Johnson is simple. We owe her the truth told completely. Not the version that makes us comfortable, not the version that ends with the crime and calls it closed, the version that asks why the gun got in, the version that names the pattern, the version that looks directly at a 19-year-old boy with military weapons training and no emotional infrastructure and asks, what did we think was going to happen? We owe her name said correctly and completely every single time. PreciousEliciaJ'anaeJohnson, 24 years old,
a mother. For the last hours of her life, a mother. That is who she was when she died. That is who she will always be. Before you close this video, I need 30 more seconds from you. Just 30. If something in this story felt familiar, not familiar like a news story you've seen before, but familiar like a pattern you recognize, a door in your own life that has been quietly, slowly closing, and you've been telling yourself it isn't what it looks like, please hear me when I say this. You do not have to wait until it gets worse. Whatever it is right now, it is already enough to reach out, already enough to make a call, already enough to tell someone. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 1-800-799-7223. Write it down. Put it in your phone under any name you want. Just put it somewhere. If you are in the Birmingham area and you need someone who will sit across from you and actually help you find a way forward, One Place Metro Alabama Family Justice Center exists exactly for that reason. They've been doing this work for years. They know what this looks like. They will not judge you for how long it took to call. And if this story stayed with you, share it. Not because of an algorithm, not for a number on a screen. Share it for Precious. Because the only thing that comes close to honoring a life cut this short is making sure the people who needed to hear her story actually heard it. If you're new here, subscribe. This channel tells these stories the way they deserve to be told, completely, honestly, with the names said right and the silences kept where they belong. The next story is coming, and like this one, it will not let you go easily. PreciousEliciaJ'anaeJohnson, 24 years old, March 1st, 2026. Gone.